now it is time to move up to the next level. This is where things start to get intense. Not really, just focus and follow along. This is where you're going to be able to start making things really work in your game, and it's going to be incredible. So make sure you do not click off if you want to become a scripter. I see that mouse of yours inching closer and closer to the YouTube homepage. Don't do it. Don't give up on your dream. Being able to script your own game. This is well worth it, and it could end up being a real moneymaker for you later. Now, we're on the functions are exactly what they're called. So I'm going to go ahead and just look Control A and delete everything. So basically, functions are just a piece of code that performs a function. Now, and this is just an action in your code, and it's when you call a function. So basically, we don't want to be sitting there just typing the same code over and over and over and over and over again. So that's where functions come in. They have a few other cool things you can use it for too. Functions can be called upon with just a single word, and it will run your entire function, your entire chunk of code that's in that function, without having to rewrite it or anything. All you need to do is call the function by writing its name and parentheses after it. But there's also another neat feature. Let's say you put something into a function. Well, you can actually put a value into a function and it can spit something back. So you can have a function that adds 2 to whatever the first parameter or input in the function is, and it will go ahead and print that. It will add 2 to whatever you put into it, and it'll print it. A parameter is basically just a variable when you're using it in your function, and trust me, this is going to be a lot more useful later, and it's also going to make a lot more sense when we actually write this out. So don't worry, we're going to make a function right now. So let's go ahead and write function add 10 x. So x is going to be our first parameter. So that's what you're going to do when you call a function. You're going to input x to whatever number that you want to add 10 to. We're going to go ahead and add parentheses to that, and type x again, and we're going to click enter. And we're going to write local y equal x plus 10. So what this does is this makes a variable y, which equals our input x plus 10. That's what it's doing. So it's making a variable y, and it just adds 10, and that's what y is. Y is x plus 10. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to print y. So this is going to print x plus 10. So if x equals 2, and we add 10 to it, that's going to be 12. So what y is going to be is 12. I'm just going to go ahead and print that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return y. And what this will do is it's going to, basically wherever we call the function, we're going to be able to use y later in the script. Also, what I did right here is I wrote a comment. Put 2 dashes. You can write whatever you want. And the script is going to ignore them. You can write notes, and it's pretty good practice to just write these wherever you can so you remember what things to do in the script. And also it helps if someone else is going to be looking at the script looking at the line. So functions are one of the most powerful things in scripting. And one of the most important pieces of functions is called scope. And you might have noticed so far that I write local before basically all variables. Well, you can also write local before function. And if you don't write local, that means it's naturally a global function. So a global function can be used throughout the whole script, no matter where it's written. A local function can only be used after it's been written, or if it's inside of a function, you can only use it inside that function. So you can only use y here inside this function unless we return it. And also, if you write a local function at the end of the script, for example, we can't use it anywhere. Same for functions. Well, a local function at the end of the script, we could not use it. So this is going to be a lot easier to understand after we practice this. So if we want to go ahead and use this function that we've written here, we can actually type in add 10, and we can type in right here, let's write 2. So what it's going to do is it's going to print 10 plus 2, which is 12, and it's going to return that code. So we can actually write local number add 10 to 2. And what this is going to do, since we return y, this is going to equal y, this variable. 12. We can go ahead and use that throughout the rest of our script, which is why this is so useful, especially when you get into more advanced sides of scripting. So hopefully you understand functions, but if you don't worry, we're going to get a lot more practice in after this. This is just a brief explanation, and again, feel free to rewind, rewatch any parts of this video that you need. And remember, do not give up. You are well on your way to becoming a great scripter, and don't worry if you don't understand everything yet. This video will clear up all your questions by the end. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at if statements. If statements basically check if something is true, and if it is, it does it. So, okay, so we need a variable for this part. So local part equals script.parent, which is our pink part. So local part equals script.parent. And what we're going to do is we're going to do if part.anchor equals basically just means that it's checking if something is true. You need to do that whenever you're checking if something is true. If part.anchored equals true, then part.color equals color3 dot from RGB 255 0 0. So what this is going to do, this is just color3 is just a 3-number value that you can make the color. And if it's from RGB, it's going to be making it in red, green, and blue, and the highest number being 255, lowest being 0. So if we write 255 on red, it's going to be a fully red color. If you were to add 100 of this, it'll make it a little bit pink because we're adding a lot of blue. If we added a lot more, like 220, it'll make it more purple since red and blue usually makes purple. Alright, so what this is doing is it's checking if the part is anchored, and if it is, it's changing the color of the part to red. Now, we can also add to this and we can make it check for something else. So if this is not true, it's just going to skip the changing of the color of the part altogether. But we can make this move on and say else. So if that isn't true, it's going to move on and it's going to say print part is unanchored. So it's going to print the part is unanchored. So if it's anchored, it's going to make the part red. Otherwise, it's going to print part is unanchored. And honestly, this is one of the most useful things I use all the time in scripting, because there's a lot of times we need to check things are true, check if things aren't true, check if things exist at all in your game. And we don't have to just check if something is true. We can actually check if part.color, if part.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new, and then, oh yeah, we got to do the double equal signs. I'm forgetting too. It's easy to forget. If part.brickcolor equals medium stone gray, then we can print this is a gray part. And this is going to write in the output that this is a gray part. As you can see, this doesn't even have to be a whether or not this is true, because obviously we can have an if part.brickcolor equals true. But if the part.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new medium stone gray, then it's going to print that this is a gray part. And otherwise, it's just going to skip over that code just like all if statements. Now, there's also else if statements. So what we've looked at so far is if statements, which check if something's true, and if it is, it doesn't. We looked at else statement, which it's just moves on. So basically, if that isn't true, it'll move on, it'll do whatever else is in the script. But what else if does, it's like else, but then you're also checking for something else. So if part.anchored equals false, then it's going to print part is unanchored. So this already, it does the same thing, but it's checking for something specific. So if we did this on something a little bit better of an example, is doing it on the brick color. So else if part.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new really red, it's going to check if this is medium stone gray, and if it's not, it's also going to go and check if part's color is really red, and it's going to print in the output, this is a really red part. So as you can see, this can be very useful. So if part.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new medium stone gray, then it'll print this is a gray part. Otherwise, it's going to check if this is a really red part, and if it is, it's going to print this is a really red part. Otherwise, it's going to skip both of these things altogether. And that is why else if statements, else statements, and if statements are all just as useful. There's just different scenarios when you're going to need to use them. You need specific things done. So now we are just going to completely ditch this script for now. I'm going to close it out, and I don't want this script doing anything for now. I don't want to delete it though. So right now I'm just going to actually right click, rename this script to not using this, LOL, and I'm just going to click disable in property. So this script is not going to do anything. And we're going to make a new script by right clicking this part, clicking insert object, and clicking script, and it's going to go ahead and make a new script. So let's clear out the script by clicking Control A and just clicking backspace. And we're going to write if script.parent.name equals taco, then print taco. Else if script.parent.name equals hamburger, then we're going to print hamburger. So what this is going to do is this is another if and else if statement, and this is going to check if the part's name is taco, and if so, it is going to print taco. If it is not taco, it is then going to check if this is a part named hamburger. Otherwise, if it is not named hamburger, it's going to do nothing. If it is, it's going to print hamburger. else will always do something. If the first if statement is not true, else is always going to do something. So if we do else, it's going to print hamburger no matter what the name of the part is. If it isn't taco, it's always going to print hamburger. But if we add on that else if, it's going to be checking for something specific, and it's going to print hamburger only if the part's name is hamburger. So hopefully that clears up the difference between else and else if. I know it's kind of hard to get at first, but it's very important that you know the difference because you're going to be using both of these a lot in the script. Alright, we're done with that. Enough with the else and else if. So next are events, and events are really cool. Events are really interesting because we can finally start to check and listen for when things are happening in our game, and we get to have script that run when something happens in your game. So let's say a player touches a part. We can have an event of when a player touches a part. We can run a chunk of code when that part is touched. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a new part. We're going to make a kill brick over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a part, anchor that thing, scale it, and I'm going to make this, nice little red, and we're going to add a neon to that. Nice little kill brick, cool looking. I want to turn off cast shadow on that too. And I'm going to click the plus on the part, and I'm just going to add a script into this, clicking on it, and I'm going to clear the script out, clicking Control A, clicking backspace as usual, and I'm also going to name the script. I want to name this kill part script. So first we're going to define our variables, and we're going to write local killbrick equals script.parent. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an event that basically it's going to check when some other part touches this part, and then we're going to check if that part is inside of a player's character. We're basically going to check and listen for when a player touches this part, and then we're going to go ahead and kill that player's character. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to listen for the touched event, and we are going to make a function that passes on the touch part, which is the part that